Good evening, everyone. Tonight, our guest speaker will be Jean-Yves Leclerc. Am I pronouncing your name correct, Jean-Yves? Can you hear us?
Yes, sure.
Wonderful. Welcome. Les, would you like to say anything for introducing Jean-Yves? Well, you know him better than I do. We just met just now, so.
Oh, okay. This is our one of our best friends for many, many years. Jean-Yves was with Condo here in Mountain View long time ago before he returned to France. And thanks to the magic of Zoom, he can be with us again. And we're glad you could be with us, Jean-Yves, but it's nice to see you again. And you have not aged one bit in the last 100 years. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Les.
Yeah.
Well, nice to see other old friends. You know, like Diana She used to make beautiful cookies. And Brenda, of course, and Giuseppe, but we see each other a bit more often. Yeah.
I'm just going to spotlight you, and if you'd like to go back to gallery view, you'll be able to see everyone. Do you know how to do that?
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Okay. That way people can see you better.
Okay. So thank you for inviting me. Today, I would like to say a few words about words. Buddhist literature is very big, like, you know, it says more than 5,000 official sutras. Oh, by the way, do you hear me well?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good. But in Zen, the tradition is that we mistrust words. And we don't really know what happened at the time of the Buddha, but in the Zen tradition, Buddha, right from the beginning, Buddha said things about words. You know, when he had transmitted the lamp to Mahakashyapa, he said something like a special transmission. He said, I have the true Dharma I, the true form of the formless, independent of words and transmitted beyond doctrine. And of course, Bodhidharma, the first master in China, who started Zen, is famous for saying this sort of the same thing, you know, like he said, a special transmission outside the scripture, not depending on words and letters, directly pointing to the mind, seeing into one's true nature and attaining Buddhahood. And if you go on like that from the beginning, you see that they all are mistrusting words. The six patriarchs said things like that. One of the famous teacher on that is Hongxi, who said, promoted silent illumination, silent being, meaning without words. And Dogen himself, in many of his texts, says no words. You know, in Fuken Zazengi, it says during Dazen, think about not thinking, which means no words. So maybe before, I would like to go back a bit to history. The human kind started a long time ago. You know, the first recognized, what we say, Homo is more than 2 million years old. But Homo sapiens, who looks a bit more like us, is about 300,000 years. Speech itself, this started about 40,000 years. So it's not long ago that we use words. But at the same time, you know, to move from simple speech to words in the sense, in the way we use them today, you know, like written words, took even more time. The first writings started about 3,000 years ago. It's a time where in China, people started to have kanjis, you know, pictograms. And same thing in the Western, sort of the Western world, which Egypt and Sumer, it's about that time that we have something written. And at that time, the first way of writing were really pictograms. So, you know, people talked about things, and the first way they wrote about it was description of the thing that they were talking about. And it took about another 1,000 years, sorry, before people went from pictogram to phonograms. Phonograms is a way, you know, it's alphabets. It's things that do not represent something, but is a way to talk about it in a more sophisticated way. And the evolution of words continue for, you know, at the beginning it was left to right and top to, or in fact it was top to down, top to bottom, you know, and then it moved and started being the way we know it now, from horizontal and left to the right, about 400 years before Christus. So it's something which is very recent and very new. And what it means is that concept and thought is much older than that. You know, even before Homo sapiens, people could think and have concept. In fact, it's not something that is unique to humans. The great apes are able to think and have concept. And communication was older than words, you know. But initially, people communicated through music and dance, and you know, they emitted sound because they had. Long before Homo sapiens, they had the capability, they have vocal cords, so the ability to modulate sounds, to express themselves in terms of communication. And so, despite the fact that communication was certainly happening for many, many years, language is a very efficient way to map the world. And once you map the world, you can remember things, and then you can manipulate things. So language was, at the beginning, not so much, from what people believe, it was not so much a tool to communicate, because people knew how to communicate before, but it was a tool to map the world and manipulate the world. So it's sort of a a power tool. And the advent of language reinforced something that is very important in human beings, but not only human beings, which is that we have two opposing ways of dealing with the world. And these opposing ways are both vital, but they are also sometimes they are in conflict and sometimes they help each other. The two opposing ways are to first isolate things. Isolate things and to describe them, isolate them between different things. You know, you talk about one thing and another one. So so that we can differentiate things. And at the same time, when you do that, when you differentiate something, you differentiate yourself from that thing. So you separate yourself from the world. And the other way is completely different. The other way is that you sense the connectedness of things. So even when you look at different things, you are not separating them. You understand that they exist, but you understand also the global connectedness of things. And there is no separation between different things. And there is no separation also between yourself and the world. So it's more a feeling of connectedness of things than a feeling of separation. But these two ways of understanding the world are extremely different. And they are not specific to human beings, but they are so different that in the evolution of animals and humans, it required the sequestration of these two modes of understanding. And in fact, we have two brains. You know, the brain is separated into two hemispheres, and we can call it the left brain and the right brain. And the connection between the two is not that big. And the two brains compete against each other, and sometimes they help each other. And so basically, the brain is responsible for separating things, naming things, is a left brain, is a brain responsible for efficiency. It's the one that allows us to grasp things, not only in the physical terms. You know, it's if we take our spoon or any kind of tool, it is under the control of the left brain. But it's also grasping in the sense of understanding, you know, by naming, separating, isolating. And in terms of when language appears, you know, like something like 40,000 years ago, maybe, as language, then the left brain took over the speech. When we want to say something, when we want to speak, it's a special part of our left brain that takes over and controls the speech. And it also controls the vocabulary and the grammar. So left brain is, in fact, very efficient for when we need to talk, because it's speech and it controls the grammar and the vocabulary. And of course, it has the memory of all of these things. And we use the left brain to um, to really control words. And over the years, the left brain has become extremely powerful. And we now believe that there is no thought without words. In fact, when we talk about, the constant work of our mind, for example, doing Zazen, the monkey, the monkey brain, the monkey mind that constantly thinks. Well, what it's not thinking, it's really words. And many philosophers have said, that if you cannot express words, you cannot think. Which, well, this is really the power of the left brain, which over the years has been controlling more and more the right brain. And so maybe that's a way we can understand why Zen has been mistrusting words. Because there are several reasons. The first thing is that when you name something, remember, it's the function of the left brain. When you name something, you isolate it, and you isolate it from the rest, from the world, from us. And of course, this is a very thing that then is not wanting. And when you name something, you give it existence. So instead of seeing reality, you can talk about description of reality. So words are not reality. They are a description of reality. And when one of the issues with the left brain is that it creates, because it's a master of words, it creates its own reality, which has nothing to do necessarily with reality. And it's very different from the reality from one person to another. For example, quite recently in your country, you could see that the reality of Democrats and the reality of Republicans have been very different. This is because of the dominance of words. And another thing about the left brain is only concerned about efficiency and concerned also about itself. Efficiency for myself separated from the world. And so one of the issues with the left brain is that it creates a reality and it does not hesitate to lie. And of course, we see that also in maybe politicians or in marketing or whatever, is that people can very honestly, what they say honestly, invent a reality which for other people is a pure lie. Of course, one of the biggest lie maybe is that the left brain says, oh, by the way, all these things exist and I exist. So the left brain is where the very function of the left brain to manipulate words generates the feeling that I do exist. And of course, then always say, well, no, we don't exist. So that's why one of the reasons why Zen has always been worried about words, which is, it's not so much worried about the fact that we can speak, but it's very much the fact that the left brain is always using words in a strange way and isolating things and isolating us from the world. Now, the good thing is that, as I said, we have also the right word, the right brain. And contrary to the left brain, the right brain is not very smart at words, but the right brain understands. It understands meaning. And it has, like the left brain, it has a sense of its own existence. You know, when we use a right brain, well, we still know that we exist, but the right brain does not separate things. You know, the right brain has a different view. It has an all-encompassing view. And the right brain doesn't need words to think. In fact, very strangely, you know, the right brain is sort of the master of thinking. It's a master of thought. But because it doesn't have the mastering of words, you know, of speech, we do not feel that the right brain expresses itself through words. In fact, when we need to speak, you know, when the right brain has an idea, I need to speak like I do now. I'm trying to express ideas, but my ideas probably come from the right brain unless I read words. But if I try to say something, then I have to use my left brain, and the right brain transfers information to the left brain, and the left brain then builds a very strong vocabulary, you know, because it's very smart, a lot of words, and then says what my right brain would like to express. But the right brain has some capacities that the left brain doesn't have at all. For example, the right brain understands metaphor. It understands poetry. In fact, the right brain understands mathematics and music. And that's why, you know, when we say that Zen doesn't like words, it's not quite true. Zen loves some words, especially poetry. And because the right brains can express poetry in a way that the left brain does not. So even if I say some words which look poetic, this is not created by the right brain, not even by the left brain, not even understood by the left brain. It's created only by the right brain. And poetry can be not only can be related to religion, but it also it then encouraged arts and poetry as an art. For example, a simple, very simple thing like longing for Kyoto in Kyoto. It's completely stupid from the left brain thinking. You know, how can you long for Kyoto when you are in Kyoto? But the right brain understands that very well. And in the history of Zen, of course, there are many, many poetic writings. And let me give you another example. I come from Hongshi. The misty moon in the river of stars, snowy pines on a cloud-covered peak. The crane dreams in the cold mist, the river embracing the distant autumn. The left brain is completely flabbergasted, and the right brain has to explain, you know, maybe, or other people have to explain what it means. And of course, there's a poem by Sekito Kisen called "The Harmony of sameness and difference. And this is exactly what it says. But instead of using words in a very logical way, this is words used in a very poetic way. And as I said before, the right brain can think, but does not need words to express the thing. It's a bit like being on the seashore and you are speechless and you look at the ocean. You can see the waves, but you have the big picture. And in this kind of silence, the right brain, without expressing it, has what let's call a sense of something greater. And this is exactly what was expressed also by Hongxi by promoting what he calls silent illumination. Remember maybe his another poem from Hongxi which says, in total silence, words forgotten, bright and clear, right before you. That's a something greater. And another place it says, when thinking does not arise, the reed blossoms shine like snow. So over the last centuries, the left brain has really taken over. And our civilization is becoming more and more dominated by words and by probably the selfish thinking of the left brain, which is not only unique to each of us, but has become the way of the civilization. But the thing we have to remember is that as we are, like Suzuki Roshi said, as we are perfect. Which means that we have to include both the left brain and the right brain. Both are perfect. And our practice is not to kill words or kill the ego, which is the expression of generated by the use of words by the left brain. Believing in ourselves. It's not to kill that, but it's to find the harmony between the right brain and the left brain. And it's not killing thought, not killing the ego, but it's being completely present all the time in the universe and being able to see the entire world, the entire universe, everything which is in front of us, but at the same time doing what we need to do in a very efficient way. So we need to use our right brain as the way we are present in the world, but at the same time we have to use our left brain in a harmonious way to be efficient. There are many, many examples of that. For example, when you do play the violin, the violin is a very delicate instrument in the sense that all violins they're not mass produced. They are all a bit different. So what you need to do is really you need to learn your violin and you need to learn from the left brain point of view all the details about the violin. But at some stage you have to become intimate with a violin. And becoming intimate is not expressed by special thinking or special thought or special details. It is really to understand without words how to play the violin. And how to play it is probably going to use, the skills of your left brain, of your right hand and your left hand. But if you want to play good music, you have to go beyond just the mastery of the tool. And good music can only be created by the right brain. So sometimes we use words, and sometimes we don't use words. And then there's some stories about not knowing. One day, a monk went to see one of the masters, and the master asked, like they usually do, where do you come from? And the monk said, well, I'm on a pilgrimage. I'm going from temples to temples. So the master says, well, why do you do that? And the monk says, I don't know. And the master understood, and he said, not knowing is most intimate. But sometimes not knowing is stupid. You just, your left brain is surprised by the question, and they said, "Oh, I don't know." But in this case, the master understood that what the monk was doing could not be expressed by words. It was the most intimate move of the monk to go from temple to temple and just practice away, which is why the master said, this is most intimate. So sometimes words, sometimes no words. Maybe I should stop saying words now. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean-Yves. We are now open for questions. Dave and then Diane.
Jean-Yves, thank you for a wonderful talk. And it's good to see you again after so many years. My head is buzzing with what you said and questions I'd like to ask, but I'll limit myself to just one. In Suzuki Roshi's book, Branching Streams Flow in the Darkness, which is his, of course, commentary on the Sandokai, he talks about the necessity for understanding Zen words, which he sort of describes as words that cut both ways. And I'm wondering if that's essentially equivalent to what you were saying about poetry, or if there's something even more special about Suzuki Roshi's notion of Zen words.
Well, Suzuki Roshi had, at that time, we didn't have really ideas about, left brain and right brain and things like that. Maybe Brenda knew because she studied all these kind of things. But and we should not be too concerned, about left brain and right brain and neuroscience and so on. But at the same time, that's so we don't need this. But at the same time, words can help us explain things, and we get a better sense of why things happen. So I don't exactly know, what Zen words were in the sense of Suzuki Roshi, but what I believe is that thinking really comes from the right brain. Thinking doesn't need words. but we have to express it. You know, it's remember the books from Katagiri Roshi. The first one was Returning to Silence.
Mhm.
But then the second one was, but we have to say something. And but how do we say it? You know, and what I suspect is that if we are entirely using the left brain words, you know, which we do all the time, which people do all the time, without having what Suzuki Roshi called big mind, you know, the big picture, then we are just fooling ourselves, you know, and because the left brain is very smart, you know, very, very powerful. We can lie, in fact, and most of the time, what we do, we lie to ourselves. Well, it's nice to lie to others, but you know, when people argue, most of them believe, you know, that they are completely honest. I know I'm right. That's the left brain, you know. So even if we believe that the left brain lies, the left brain does not believe that. The left brain believes he doesn't lie. You know, he's right. And the difficulty, of course, is that he doesn't have the big picture. But the big picture is mostly silent. So we have to extract from the big picture and use, you know, the words that do not come from our own selfish way of discriminating the world, but from the big understanding of what is in front of us. And sometimes we lie, sometimes we don't, and sometimes we remain silent. So I believe that Zen words, in the sense of Suzuki Roshi, was words that are spoken by the left brain, because that's the only thing we know how to do, but that are thought by the right brain, which is having the big picture and not, you know, the limited, narrow, selfish, not selfish in a wrong way, you know, selfish because this is the mission of the left brain, is to be efficient. And if you want to be efficient for yourself, you are selfish.
Thank you.
Diane?
Yeah, Diane.
Oh, you have to unmute yourself, yeah. There you go.
Sorry. So nice to see you, Jean-Yves. Thank you for your talk. I've never really studied the sutras or read a lot about Zen, but we recently started studying sutras with one of our members. And I found we spent a whole lot of time talking about the words and what could the possible meaning of the words be. And I felt like we just got lost, for me, in a jumble. And I thought about sometimes when we chant, you mentioned harmony of difference and unity. Sometimes when we're chanting, I suddenly have this understanding and I'll stop in the middle of the chanting and look at the words, and then it goes away because I looked at the words and I thought I understood the words, but it really wasn't the words. It was sort of the energy of the chanting and the words coming together in the chant. And is that kind of the right brain kind of stuff that you're talking about?
Yeah, the left brain does not understand music. And it's one of the power of chanting, you know, is that we are using something which is different than just expressing words. And so by chanting, we are using both our brain, you know, and chanting allows us to have to understand a bit more the big picture of words before you analyze the words, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you can, it's a way to play tricks. When you change something, you are using your big mind, the right understanding, which doesn't need words. But then you are sending the words to the left brain.
Mm.
And the left brain understands it after a while. It's like when we do vows.
Mm.
I vow something, okay? So typically when we say that, especially when we have to read the words, it's a left brain. So we are using the left brain to convince the left brain, because the left brain doesn't have, it's all memory.
Mm.
It's the personality that the left brain is defending is just memory. So you can send words to change the mental habits of the left brain. If you say to the left brain, be nice, be nice, be nice, be nice. In the end, it's going to be nice, because you are changing
Mm.
the mental mind. You're changing the memory of the left brain, and what he's saying, so it can change.
Mm.
And that's what we do by repetition. We do the vows. We know the right brain knows they are impossible, but the right brain says to the left one, do it, save all beings, forget all of the your passion, all of your emotion. Okay, do it, and in the end, it does.
Mm.
Just by the repetition and the chanting also helps convincing the left brain that it can in fact change.
Mm.
But it takes time.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Eric.
Hello, Jean-Yves. So good to see you.
Eric, yes. You still look very young, Eric.
You're looking
I'm jealous. I'm jealous.
So like California sun. So when a child is born, obviously they can't understand language. They can't speak language yet. So their left brain, isn't very active, right? And it's even though it's trying to learn, it's not really dominating them yet. Or the right brain, has these non-verbal thoughts, I'm sure, right? Things like, oh, I'm hungry and I'm thinking about food, or maybe I'm thinking about my mother or my father, right? And wanting to see them. So, it's really you're really dominated by the right brain. So there's a lot of Zen stories and Zen parables that talk about original mind and going back to original mind. And so I was thinking, are those really referring to that original state of your mind when you're just a couple months old and you just have these nonverbal thoughts without the left brain having all these discriminating thoughts that you'll eventually learn, right? And I could say and separate yourself from the world. Do you think maybe that's what original mind is being referred to by Zen stories?
Original mind is baby mind.
Mm.
When you're a baby, you have in theory all the capacities of being a human being. But then you need to learn some things. And we should not, and you learn it by the contact with the world, by experience. And we cannot say that all these experiences are bad. If we stayed like a baby, all our life, it will be quite different. So we need to grow. We need to learn things and acquire skills and so on. So original mind, looks a bit idealistic. Oh, I have to go back to my original mind. The truth is that we have to come back to what we are right now, which is both the result of the fantastic capabilities of this body mind. Everything you could do with this body mind, but it has to be augmented by all the experiences that we had. Which is why the Suzuki Roshi said, he said, we are perfect like we are. We have all the capacities, we have original mind all the time. But he then added, but you may need some improvement. And the improvement is that, because of the habits of our life, of all the experience, the left brain has accumulated stories, pain, bad memories, suffering, and it has to adjust, and we have to adjust, and we have to slowly make sure that we are not identified with these things. So it's if we the left brain is the keeper of our identity, and what the problem is that we are confusing very often our identity with all the stories what happened in the past. So, but original mind is what we are right now. There's no difference. We are just perfect like we are. And one of the issues is that the left brain believes, that the ego believes that it's different than what we have the capability to be, which is just being what we are and just acting in the world the way we are. So original is not something where, you have to go back to. You cannot go back to. You just grow all the time and make mistakes all the time. That's what Dogen says. Something like having illusion in illusion is enlightenment. It's just continually being in illusion is enlightenment, which means that there's no difference between original mind and our everyday mind.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Brenda?
Brenda.
Hi, Jean-Yves.
Hi, Brenda.
Pleasure to see you. I have a question. I'm intrigued. You were kind of talking about the communication between the right and left, and kind of, there's an area of the brain called the corpus callosum that has to do with communication between the two. And I've been thinking a lot lately, or meditating a lot lately on the idea of flow, kind of between the, as a mediator of experience, between the right and left, between kind of trying to unite in myself that kind of right brain experience of the present moment with the fact of also needing to be efficient in the world, and carry stuff out, and kind of how do you do that harmoniously? Because I find that, like, when I'm on the cushion, I can be in a very meditative space, but then when I'm like stuck in traffic, it's like harder, or when somebody's really getting on my nerves, it can still be difficult. And so sort of trying to really flow, blend those experiences, unify them I don't know if you have any suggestions for that.
Well, yeah, you know better the brain than I do. So, you know, I quote myself here talking about it. But you probably know that the way that the brain works in general is that it's not black and white, never. It's sending it's sending enforcement or sending inhibition, and between the two brains, but inside also is part of the brain, you can inhibit something or you can enforce it. It's never black and white. But one of the things is that the left brain can completely inhibit the right brain, and vice versa. And of course, in our brain we have different. The high level cortex, can inhibit our basic emotions. That's another thing, that basically our body understands what is right and wrong, what is good for us and not good for us. We know, oh, yes, it's for me or not for me. But sometimes emotions are so strong that they shut the high level cortex. So, you may have lofty ideas about how to be in when you are in the traffic. You say, oh, I have to be calm and I have to be beautiful and so on. But then suddenly, something happened, and then, the inner side of you says, ah, I hate that. So, things are more complex. What we do during Zazen, is allow some kind of silence and some kind of, as you said, understanding of the flow of things. So, you can see things happening without intervening, without saying stop it or yes, yes, I want it or I don't want it. That's what you can do when you see the flow of things in the global picture. It's like seeing the ocean. If you look at the ocean, it's very calming. But now if you have a big wave coming to you, you rush. So it's in between, and there is no recipe. I don't think there is a recipe, at least not for me. But understanding the flow of things help a lot. So understanding the flow that, oh yes, this guy is a jerk. He's telling me something that, it's terrible. He's a liar. We don't, So, and sometimes you need to become an activist. And sometimes, you just keep quiet. But if you can enter the flow of things and understand that things just happen, maybe slowly, you inhibit your quick reactions, and you say, okay, I understand the flow of things, so I don't need to react so quickly. So I think that's part of Zazen, well, in Zazen, for example, you do two things. One thing is that you have a very busy mind. So you are using your left brain skills to concentrate, go back to the breath, go back to the breath, go back to the breath. So you make a vow, you send a message to your left brain, which is every time you go back to the breath. And because the left brain is efficient, okay, sometimes, you go up, it goes back by itself. It's not you that coming back, it's your mind coming back. So you are using concentration, and it's good. But if it's the only thing you do, then you will never see the big space. That's why, in Shikantaza, we say, take everything in, big space, big mind. See the ocean. And if you have the picture of the ocean, and then you can accept things to come, and ideas and emotions and things like that, because you see them sort of in a big thing. So it's the same thing when you're in the traffic. If you can keep the, as you said, the flow, not necessarily the flow of cars, but the flow of in your mind, you know, the flow of things happening, then okay, it's happening. It's frustrating, but it's happening. Okay, it's happening. So I don't think that it's just by accident that Suzuki Roshi talked about big mind. You know, it's big is space. You know, put yourself in a space where everything can happen. Put yourself in the universe, and then everything can happen. Even strange country president, it can happen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Les?
I don't hear you, Les.
He's trying to unmute himself.
Okay, there.
Good.
There we go.
So what is the relationship between the left brain and the right brain and artificial intelligence?
Artificial intelligence is trying to mimic the way the brain works by, you know, saying it's not only black and white, but it's I reinforce something and I don't reinforce something. So if you have pure artificial intelligence, there is no difference. You know, it looks like the brain. Now, artificial intelligence usually doesn't look at the big picture. It has only one way to look at things. Very smart, very smart, and to look at things and so on. So we have to reinvent, you know, brains for intelligence, artificial intelligence. We have to invent the splitting of the brain where it will see both the big pictures and also the details. Artificial intelligence is usually used for a specialized job, you know, like playing chess. So it's one problem. It can be very smart, like the left brain, you know, because it's one problem. The reason why we have a split brain is that we don't have one problem to solve, or, you know, we have to see the world globally, and we have to be efficient. And it's not only humans, you know, animals have that for a long time. It started by, you know, I have to look at eating, you know, I have to pick the food. That's my left brain. I have to be efficient locally. And at the same time, I have to look at the big picture. Is there someone coming to eat me? Or, you know, is there something great that I can find over there? So you have the big picture and the small picture. And artificial intelligence, up to now, from what I understand, is trying to tackle one world at a time, not the two separate worlds, not the two separate views. That's more typical of living beings.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
Giuseppe?
Hello,
Hi,
Jean-Yves.
Giuseppe.
I continue the conversation on the same note of Les. So, do you think neuroscience can explain consciousness? And in other words, left brain words and right brain words, is there something beyond that? Or in other words, what does a Zen person can contribute beyond what the scientist can contribute?
You have a very smart mind. But we don't understand consciousness. We have no idea what it means, consciousness. You know, the expression is eyes don't see the eye. So we do not see ourselves thinking, we just think. And it is not the purpose of our brain to try to understand everything. And certainly consciousness is not something we understand, and neuroscientists don't understand consciousness. It just happened. That's, you know, why some things are coming to what we call our consciousness. We don't know. But it just happened, so that's why we are perfect. We don't necessarily understand. And I think scientists have to, what they do is that give us a picture of the world that we can understand. And sometimes understanding this helps. You know, if I know, for example, that my ego is just memories, just something that is stored in my memory, then it's not so bad. You know, maybe I can accept my ego, maybe I can play with my ego, and so on. So it helps to have a picture of what we are, but how far can we go? I don't know. You know, and we have not yet reinvented artificial intelligent machine like this that have consciousness. Cineast invented it, you know, 2000 something, you know, the HAL had consciousness, but that's a pure invention, you know. Machines do not have consciousness, but they work efficiently. Will machines, in the end, you know, it's one of the big terror. Will they become so complicated that they will have consciousness and take over? Well, it's a nice idea. It's you know, we can talk about it. It's nice, but for the time being, the scientists do not understand consciousness, and then people do not understand consciousness. We just live. So maybe there is no need, you know, to understand consciousness. Just go on. Just go on. Trying to understand consciousness may be an error of not an error, it's an intuition of the left brain. You know, I would like to understand everything, but you cannot understand everything in a rational way. But we understand at the same time what consciousness is, in the sense that we live consciousness, we are conscious. That's all, that's enough. So I leave to the scientists to go beyond, and one day, but I will be dead, I'm sure, to explain consciousness.
Balaji and then Don.
Hi. So I was reading about quantum physics and quantum computing. So in there, the existence of, like wave and particle, like 0 and 1 exist same time. So it's kind of a Zen type of mind. It exists there in quantum level, I feel. It may be a consciousness. So the quantum level, we are handling mostly in artificial intelligence, molecular level, neurons, things like that. But in quantum level, it's totally different. It is almost similar to Zen philosophy, we can say. All the physics in quantum levels is a totally different world. So here, 0 and 1 exist same time, wave and particle same time. So it is like a big picture, small picture, same time. So it is so if you are spinning a coin, it head and tail is happen same time. So when it stops only, we see that one or head or tail. It is like that. So the so everything is changing, transforming, and moving. So this existence of both type of wave and particles is there. So I see there is some relevance to Zen philosophy and quantum physics.
I must admit that maybe being a big deaf, I could not understand what you said, but that's fine. I agree with you. There is certainly something, there's some aspects of science that we do not understand, but we can accept. I cannot say more about that. I'm sorry. Thank you for your question and for the bad answer.
It is almost close. Thank you.
Don?
Okay, hi. Thanks so much for this talk. My question is a little bit related to what.
I'm sorry, I don't hear you well.
Okay, how's that? Is that better?
It's a bit better, yes.
Okay. My question is sort of related to Giuseppe's in that you talked a lot about brain, and I was wondering how mind fits into brain, and it seems that the questions about understanding consciousness is based on the idea that it is somehow produced by the brain, and I was just wondering what you thought about that. It seems that. How does mind fit into all this brain stuff, and a quantum physics thing? I just like to quote Richard Feynman, who was a Nobel Prize winning quantum physicist, and he said that he could say without fear of contradiction that no one understands quantum physics. So the understanding of it may be highly overrated. But what do you think about mind and brain?
Oh. There's always a tendency to think that something is magical above, it's come from somewhere. Mind is 100% and only the working of the brain. So there's no difference. One is a tool, the tool is a brain. We talk about the brain, but when we talk about the mind, it's what the brain does. We only have a body mind. Everything we do belongs to this body mind.
So you think the brain could,
there's no external beautiful people that have the mind, or some people. It's just our body mind, that works. Our body brain, the body including the brain that works. That's our mind. No difference.
Okay. So the brain produces the mind doesn't produce the brain.
The mind does not produce the mind. What is the mind?
I mean, I'm wondering. That's what you're saying. The mind is what the brain does. It's something the brain does. It's not the other way around. That the mind does the brain.
Well, if the mind does the brain, what is the mind?
I wouldn't even venture a guess.
No, it could become very complicated, you know, and very poetic, you know, and of course, it started a long time ago when people in India thought about soul, you know, Atman. You know, it's somewhere. It's a big thing, you know, and but Buddha said, I don't know, but he said, just what we are, just body mind. That's all. Body mind, just here, you know, nothing else. And so the mind is what we call the mind is the expression of our body mind, of our body, really. That's what we do. So we should not look outside. Even consciousness is clearly part of what the brain does. It's just that the brain cannot see the brain. So we don't necessarily understand, you know, the mechanism because it's too complex. But you don't understand either how you are digesting. There is probably billions of small animals here that digest for you. Does it mean that it's not you? Well, you know. So we have, I think, 100 billion neurons. You will never understand how they really work in detail. But what they do is mind. So don't mind.
Thank you.
May?
Hi, Jen. Yes, yeah. Nice to meet you. This is the first time. I'm a new member, relatively. Very nice to meet you here.
Yes.
But this is basically the topic of my job. So I've been investigating quite intensively. There's one question always puzzles me. I haven't figured out yet. Is intention.
Intention.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know where intention fits. We have a left brain, we have a right brain, and there's a connection. And then of course we have interbeing, which is I call a higher mind, which is not within, it's within us, but it's also interbeing, it's everywhere. So when we speak, you know, we have this word, but we also have emotion, the theme, the tone. But they're just the content. Where is the underneath drive? You know, there's an intention. So I don't know where does the intention fit in terms of consciousness. Of course, this is all like looping. I know it's like it's I read some books that talk about, because sometimes it's easier to just focus on physically where where the intention come from, and then I often heard about it's come from upper heart chakra, which is here, but I'm not sure, you know. And actually, when we do the meditation, used to be like a, you know, Suzuki or many people actually said when you do meditation, you got a very warm feeling, right? It's actually here. So I, again, go back to my question. I don't know where this intention fits. And then what's the relationship with the intention and consciousness? I don't expect any answer, you know, I'm just thrilled, and then I'm ready to think. That's actually quite important, because we're using artificial intelligence to tell people's emotion and the intention.
Intention, huh?
Intention. Yeah, because the moment you who pick up the word, there's many word, but why do you particularly pick up this word? Sometimes it's judgmental, a lot of time, 95% of time. But why do you choose this word instead of the other word? So there is a force behind, pick up the word and pick up the emotion. So where does that force come from? Yeah. So I don't know yet. I just grab, many places. So far, I just read some like superstitious sources, like, okay, it's from here. And then it's here is actually also pretty much dominant our communication. That's why some people's word is so powerful. It doesn't matter what they say. Sometimes it just doesn't matter. Even they say anything and you just feel good because, something comes from here is actually already that's probably already dominant the whole communication, but because the word is only 20% less than. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I have answered. I just since this everybody care about this, so it's just I just throw out. I've been thinking about hard for this one. Thank you.
It's a long question. One way to look at it, is there's a flow. There's a flow of things that happen, and the flow of things in your mind, and so things that life is extremely complex. It all change all the time. And at some point, somewhere, for some reason, something gets chosen over another one. For some reason, suddenly you feel something in your stomach, you don't know exactly what it is. Your brain understands and says, oh, she's unhappy, or she wants to talk about something, or she needs a cookie. So we should not try to understand too much, because it's just too complicated. You have a memory of something. Why does it come? Why do you need to walk? Suddenly you have you need to walk. Or sometimes you see somebody and you say, oh, I need to give her a kiss. You don't know where it comes from. And it doesn't matter. Just go with the flow. Just go with the flow. So if we may have the temptation to understand what, how we think and what we think and everything else. But I think that our practice is much more, see the flow, see what's happening, and just react and don't understand. There's a Quran, but it's a story which I like. It's two monks, two brother, Dharma brother, that talk about Avalokiteshvara, compassion. And one of them says, it's like picking your pillow during the night in your back. Why do you need to pick your pillow? You don't care, okay? But you don't think about it. Oh, you pick your pillow. And then you have, and of course, then the other guy, one of the guys said, well, it's a good view, but what could you see? What could you say more? That someone says, well, it's covered with arms and eyes. So Avalokiteshvara has 1,000 arms and 1,000 eyes, and still, you know, he picks his pillow in its back, you know, at night. So what, for me, what it says is you have all your eyes and you look at the world, and of course, you cannot see all of it. You know, maybe Avalokiteshvara can do that, but we cannot see all of it. But we see some of it, as broad as possible. That's the 1,000 eyes. And then, without even thinking, without understanding why we do that, we just react. We just do things. That's our intention. So don't think about where the intention comes from. It comes from seeing the world, whatever it is, your own internal world or the outside world, and use your arms the best you can. So go with the flow. Don't try to understand why you did that. Don't try to understand where this intention came. You know, it's too complicated. So just pick your pillow and just do it without thinking. I don't know if I answered your question.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you. We all think too much.
Sorry, I was on mute. Hi, Jean-Yves. I have a question.
Hi, Bonnie.
Hi. So whenever I hear of artificial intelligence and trying to make it accurate, I'm reminded of a situation I was in San Francisco at a TEDx conference, and this company had invested a ton of money into building the most sophisticated, most human-like robot, a chatbot. And it was so realistic that as soon as they turned it on, it started swearing at people, soliciting them for sex, insulting them, and they eventually had to turn it off. So I think AI is not really going to save us. I think dealing with the things in human consciousness is going to have to happen first, because we just can create what is a replica of what we already have. But my question for you, you said that a lot of people are concerned that that machines will basically develop in complexity to the point where they take over the world, right? They develop consciousness. And I don't have a concern at all about that. I'm concerned about the opposite. I'm concerned that human beings, when they lower their consciousness and they lose their humanity and they start operating like machines. And I think that this happens a lot in war. You know, people become very machine-like and kind of lose their human consciousness. So what do we do about that?
I don't know. I don't think that, you know, I don't think it's a question of consciousness. You know, here, maybe we have here a slightly different definition of consciousness, which is, oh, I am conscious. You know, it's the same thing as saying in the Eighth Noble Path, you know, it's a right word, right thinking, right saying, right behavior, right, you know, whatever, right concentration. And so we say, oh, it has to be right. So we have a definition of right. But this definition of right is already a judgment of what is right, what is not right. So it's, when you say, you know, we are not conscious, it's almost like we are not right, you know. Well, what we talked about before about consciousness is really, it's not there's no judgment on consciousness. It's just oh, what does it mean to be conscious of something, which is different than, it's a bit playing on words to say, oh, these people they're not really conscious, which means they're not really okay. They are strange guys, bad people, bad conscious. But consciousness is something different. Consciousness is just being there, just seeing the world, just understanding what's happened in our mind. And when you say that we behave without consciousness, I would say it's more a judgment of value on the kind of behavior we have. But again, everything comes from the fact that we have two brains, and we have these two inherent need. One is to take care of ourselves in the most efficient way. And when we take care of ourselves in the most efficient way, we become what is called selfish. So we behave like machines, as you say. This is true. This is a real thing. It's but it's already a judgment of value of what you can do and not do. And it's a very dangerous game, because it means that all the time we have a definition of what is right, what is conscious. If I'm conscious, how do I behave? It's a definition of value. But our practice is a bit different, in the sense that what we say is don't have any notion of consciousness, in the sense of you talked about. Don't have a sense of value, if what is right, what is wrong. Democrats are right, Republicans are wrong, or vice versa. That's when we come with a judgment. And then always tell us, be there, without any judgments, without any notions of what you call consciousness, being conscious. Don't come with the notion of what is right or what is wrong. Just be there in the flow, and be in the world, and understand the global picture, has the global picture of the world. We come back to picking the things in your pillow in the back. If instead of just picking your pillow, you read a book of what is right and what is wrong, it's not so much them. Of course, we say, do good, don't do bad. Maybe it's an invitation that we send to our left brain, and say, have a sense of what is good, what is bad, and so on. But basically, then tells us there's no right, no good, no conscious, nothing. Something is not right. It's just go with the flow and see what's happening and do what needs to be done with your unconscious mind. So I think that, we say the world is becoming more and more selfish. But in a sense, we can also say that the world is becoming more and more judgmental. And I do not live in your country, and I don't know everything, But it seems to me that from what I hear, that there is a bigger and bigger separation in the US between people who think this and people who think that. And I think that what Zen tells us is don't judge. The selfishness and the dominance of the words and this logical civilization is creating a civilization where people cannot understand each other anymore. So it's not so much, again, do we do it right or do it wrong? Can we just see the flow? And sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong, but let's forget about right and wrong. So I don't know if I answered your question. Maybe I took another way, another path. But I think that I'm not so much concerned about, as you said, about machines taking over. And I'm not so much concerned about us becoming bad, but I'm more concerned about us becoming more judgmental and not willing, and judgment like that is separating. This is exactly what words do, when people speak, and even activists, should Buddhism be active in the world? Should we fight for this? Should we fight for that? Well, maybe, maybe sometime we have to do that. Maybe we have to fight for this kind of people that are not protected well enough, or maybe we have to blame ourselves for being white racists. Okay, but I think that not too much, because then we are separating people against people instead of saying, okay, we need to do something, but at the same time we need to have the global picture. Never act from only one judgment about things. And so when we say that words is Zen is mistrusting words, I think Zen is mistrusting the judgment that come with words and the separation that come with words. And so we need to act, with our 1,000 arms, but not starting from a position of, oh, this is bad, or this is something, or there's a problem here. Just do it. Take your pillow and just do it. Sorry for the answer.
No, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice because I may not understand.
So Dave has a follow-up question.
Well, I've already had my question, so I'm not going to take up more time with another question, but I just wanted to say, Jean-Yves, I think your description of the question of consciousness as being both clearly something that emerges from our 100 billion neurons, and yet at the same time, that view isn't a very useful way of having an authentic engagement with life, with our consciousness. You probably remember that back in the day when you and I were both graduate students at UC Berkeley, there was a fellow on the faculty, Professor John Searle, in the philosophy department, who was very famous for his studies of the whole question of consciousness. And he, in fact, he wrote a book called The Mystery of Consciousness. And there's a quote from that has always really stuck with me. And I think he was saying basically, in a very cryptic way, the point that you've been making. He said, consciousness is both a physically emergent property and a separate subjective reality. If we feel we have to choose between those two things, then we've already made the error.
Thank you.
Jean-Yves, I'd actually like to try to articulate what I heard when you spoke to me, and I don't know, see if that makes sense. What I understood is that sometimes we do have to take action and something needs to change, but we need to remove the heavy judgment we place on it, because that is seeing the problem as being very separate from us, right? And so we need to see it as not being separate from us, as we are intimate with it. We are not separate from it. There's no one out there doing something. It's so we just have to act in a way that is right for us, but without putting judgment. That's what I heard for myself.
No, yes and no. In the big picture, you don't put any judgment. But if you want to be efficient, you need judgment. You know, this is why the brains have been split into two. Because these are conflicting demands. You know, you need to be able to be smart, to see the situation, have your 1,000 eyes, but without judgment. So you need to judge to understand the situation, otherwise you will never do anything. But without judgment, which means no, the judgment has to come from the flow of the universe. It's hard to see sometimes, the flow of the universe. But that's where the judgment needs to come from. But then you have to be efficient. There's a contradiction in us, and that's why we have split brains.
Like the part
No
that
judgment.
the part that judges needs to be in harmony with the part that doesn't judge.
Yes, if we can harmonize, it's great.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions?
Well, thank you for all the time you bared with me and accepted my words and kept quiet and nice and friendly. I appreciate that. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you, Jean-Yves. Do we have any announcements tonight?
Yes, we have a guest speaker on Saturday. Maybe Brenda can tell something about it because she's organizing.
His name is Mark Lesser, and he has spent a long time at the Zen Center as well as Tassajara, and was a consultant and worked with many Silicon Valley companies to bring mindfulness and principles of Zen practice into the workplace. So he will be talking about Zen and technology. That's it.
Thank you, Brenda.
What time is that, Brenda?
9 o'clock on Saturday, Pacific time.
Do we have any other announcements? Great. Well, thank you again, Jean-Yves, for a really wonderful Dharma talk. And we are going to close with the 4 vows. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Please remind me. Anyone here for the first time besides Jean-Yves? Anyone here for the first time that would like to introduce yourself? Go ahead.
Hello, I'm not exactly here completely for the first time. I did actually, I visited Canada once prior to the pandemic, actually. This is my first time back, and I just want to introduce myself. My name's Anthony, and yeah, hopefully you'll be seeing a lot more of me, and I hope to see a lot more of you. Thank you very much, Jean-Yves, for the talk. It was very good, and thank you to everybody else for good questions and everything. So, yeah.
Nice to meet you, Anthony. Welcome. And thanks again, Jean-Yves, for a wonderful talk. This session has been recorded, so if there's anything confidential you'd like me to remove, please send me a chat message before you leave. And looking forward to seeing you all Saturday, if not before then.